ADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar, 7 p.m. in Porto Novo. Good evening and welcome to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Here are the leading stories. Senegal mourns the demise of Constitutional Council President Badio Camara.
He is really one of the most outstanding judges Senegal have had since independence. We appreciate his courage. In the past, he has participated in some outstanding decisions.
Mali and Algeria's diplomatic row officially lands at the UN Security Council without request for any action to be taken. Côte d'Ivoire government engages teachers' union over possible suspension of strike.
On peut noter avec satisfaction un retour au dialogue.
We can note with satisfaction a return to dialogue, something the government has always desired. President Ouattara has had to take certain actions to support teachers.
Of course, and the Baku community of Ghana experiences another conflict resulting in one fatality and several injuries. Details of these stories and more coming up shortly.
Listening to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal.
And my name is Sankule Janko. Newslink begins in Senegal with the death of the president of the Constitutional Council. Mamadou Badio Camara passed away this morning at the age of 73 following an illness. He had headed the country's highest constitutional court since 2023. Many remember his role in the nation's judicial poll in the build-up to the political transition. Professor Gorgui Dieng is a political analyst and a historian.
He is really one of the most outstanding judges Senegal have had since independence. We appreciate his courage. In the past, he has participated in some outstanding decisions. For example, when the president postponed the elections, it is the Constitution Council who took the decision to reject the postponement of the election by the president. That was a very important decision, because that decision helped the country regain peace and go to the presidential elections quite peacefully. But apart from that, they have also made some decisions in the past. Some of them have been appreciated by the people, others not got the same appreciation, the same positive appreciation. On the whole, we appreciate the person for what he has done. We can consider him to be really a very positive person, keeping in general to what the law says, rather to what the politicians wanted him to do.
Professor Gorgui Dieng is a political analyst and a historian on the passing of former Senegalese constitutional president, Mr. Camara. Still in Senegal, the country and South Africa are set to deepen their bilateral relations in areas of trade and investment. Speaking during a 2-day working visit to Dakar, South Africa's International Relations and Cooperation Minister, Roland Lamola, said South Africa and Senegal present a good model of how two friendly African countries can cooperate and can maximize opportunities for mutual benefit. Christopher Aticho reports.
Relations between Senegal and South Africa spans over 2 decades, with mutual respect and strategic investment in both countries' economy. The 2-day visit by South Africa's Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, to Senegal aims to strengthen diplomatic ties and deepen bilateral relations between the two nations. The visit also underscores South Africa's commitment to advancing strategic partnership with Senegal and fostering Pan-African solidarity. During his visit, Minister Lamola will co-chair the inaugural session of the Ministerial Joint Commission for Bilateral Cooperation alongside his Senegalese counterpart, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Senegalese Abroad, Ms. Yacine Fall. This historic session establishes a structured framework for enhanced collaboration cooperation on mutual priorities, including political dialogue, economic cooperation, regional integration, and multilateral coordination. Lamola also revealed that the meeting reflects both countries' vision to consolidate bilateral relations and amplify Africa's voice on the global stage while unlocking new opportunities for the two nations and the continent. Lamola is expected to meet with Senegalese leaders, including Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko and President Bassirou Diomaye Faye.
Christopher Achichu with that report. Cote d'Ivoire's Minister of Communications and Government spokesperson Amadou Coulibaly has expressed the government's commitment to ensure a holistic review of bonus allowances paid to labor, including teachers. His comment comes after holding a key meeting of the country's teachers' union on Wednesday, April 9, on reaching a consensus to call off their strike. The strike, which has been in operation for 6 days, is having a negative impact on the students' academics. Here is the Minister of Communications and Government spokesperson, Amadou Coulibaly.
On peut noter avec satisfaction un retour au dialogue.
We can note with satisfaction a return to dialogue, something the government has always desired. President Ouattara has had to take certain actions to support teachers. You will recall the serious crisis in Stockholm. The arrears led to some strikes. President Ouattara was involved in this situation. Decrees were issued announcing benefits for workers, but were never implemented. As part of the continuity of state action, President Ouattara implemented these decrees, but specifically with regard to teachers. I would like to point out that the efforts made, particularly regarding the payment of these arrears and other benefits, cost the state a little over 2.7 trillion CFA francs. It is true that some union members say they have no memory, but it is important that we remind Ivorians of all the efforts that have been made. The issue of bonuses affects a greater number of corporations than just the teaching world. It's important for the government to introduce this into a general discussion within a general framework, because you have several sectors requesting bonuses. From this point on, the government, which doesn't want to have to resolve the problems, I will say partially, wants to put this into a comprehensive framework for reflection. You can't solve problems point by point when you are a responsible government.
Global de réflexion, on ne peut pas régler les problèmes point par point quand on est un gouvernement responsable.
It is noteworthy that the teachers' unions have been meeting since 2 p.m. this afternoon to decide whether or not to continue their strike order. As a reminder, one of the union members was sentenced on Tuesday to 2 years in prison for conspiring to form a coalition of public employees and obstructing the functioning of the public service. But in a press release issued yesterday, Amnesty International demanded his release. Let's take you to the Sahel region with updates on the Mali-Algeria diplomatic rift, which continues to gain attention within the regional space and international community. As of Thursday morning, reports have emerged about Algiers and Bamako both filing a complaint with the United Nations Security Council. Mali, in a letter to the Council dated April 7, denounced the drone attack, describing it as an act of aggression perpetrated by the Algerian army. Bamako also accused Algeria of complicity with terrorist groups active in the region. Algiers, for its part, condemns the Malian drone operation as a flagrant violation of its airspace. In its letter, Algeria also denounced an attempt at manipulating orchestrated by the Malian transitional authorities in this affair. It is, however, worth noting that none of the two has requested any specific action or a meeting to resolve the dispute.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Mali, the former Minister of Economy and Finance is currently admitted to the emergency unit of a health facility in Bamako after experiencing a breakdown. Reports have emerged about Bori Fili Sissoko's health crisis in recent days since her incarceration in 2021 without trial. She is being prosecuted in connection with the purchase of the presidential aircraft and the over-invoicing of military equipment to the tune of 130 billion CFA francs under the regime of Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. Last week, the Supreme Court refused to release her on bail. Francis Boniface explains.
Boar Félix Sissoko is now receiving medical care at a health facility in the Malian capital. Suffering from undisclosed illnesses, the former Minister of Economy and Finance has seen her condition deteriorate at Bole, the women's prison where she has been incarcerated for more than 3.5 years. A worrying situation, according to her lawyer, Jangina Tunkara. While Boari Félix Sissoko is still awaiting trial, last week, the Supreme Court once again rejected her request for provisional release under judicial supervision. The trial opened last October and then suspended for the collection of additional information. The former Minister of Economy and Finance under the regime of Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta is being prosecuted for damage to public property in connection with the purchase of a presidential aircraft and the over-invoicing of military equipment to the tune of 130 billion CFA francs. The case dates back to 2014.
WTI's Ali Cham's report, voiced by Francis Boniface. Mali's transitional president, General Assimi Goïta, granted an audience to Mauritanian Foreign Minister Dr. Mohamed Salem Ould Mazroug, who delivered a message from President Mohamed Ould Ghazouani. The discussions focused mainly on the joint management of migration flows between the two countries. In his remarks, Dr. Ould Mazroug emphasized the ongoing consultations between the heads of state of the two countries, while highlighting the historical ties between Bamako and Nouakchott. He warned of the growing scale of irregular migration, alarming figures that more than 500 bodies of young Africans were found on the Mauritanian coast in 2024 and more than 100 since January 2025. According to him, these tragedies are the work of criminal networks that exploit the distress of many migrants. Since the beginning of March, approximately 3,000 Malian nationals have been expelled from Mauritania, according to several sources, including the Malian Ministry of Malians Abroad. At least one person was killed and several others injured following violent clashes between a youth group and police officers in Boku in Ghana's Upper East region. The unrest reportedly began when one faction involved in the ongoing chieftains dispute demanded that women from the opposing faction trading at the local market vacate the premises. Now the dictator completes the story.
There's renewed tension in Boko after violent clashes between youth and security personnel left one person dead and at least 2 others injured. The chaos broke out on Wednesday after a faction involved in the ongoing chieftaincy dispute reportedly asked women from the rival group to leave the local market. Police intervened following a report leading to a confrontation. Gunshots were fired during the standoff, with the youth allegedly opening fire on the officers. In what appeared to be a retaliation, angry youth set fire to the residence of the Boku Divisional Police Commander, the home of the CID officer, and the police barracks. No injuries were reported during the torching of these properties. Police and military forces have since brought the situation under control. Personnel were evacuated from the barracks and patrols have been intensified. As part of efforts to maintain order, Interior Minister Muntaka Mubarak has announced a review of the curfew in Boku and its surroundings effective Wednesday, April 9, 2025. The curfew hours now run from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. daily. The minister is urging chiefs, elders, opinion leaders and youth in the area to exercise restraint and to seek peaceful and non-violent ways of addressing their disputes. Meanwhile, a total ban has been placed on the carrying of arms, ammunition or offensive weapons in Boku and surrounding communities. The Interior Ministry warns that anyone found in possession of such items will be arrested and prosecuted. For WADR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
Over 300 military and security personnel from 40 countries have gathered in Accra for the 13th African Land Forces Summit, co-hosted by the US Army, Southern European Task Force, and the Ghana Armed Forces. The three-day summit themed Optimizing Land Forces for the Emerging Security Environment aims to strengthen regional and international defense cooperation in the face of evolving threats such as violent extremism, terrorism, cyber warfare, and misinformation. Ghana's Defense Minister, Dr. Edward Oman Boma, praised the growing military collaboration between Ghana and the U.S., reaffirming Ghana's commitment to diplomatic engagement and innovative responses to both regional and internal challenges, including illegal mining and youth unemployment. He believes the summit offers an avenue to yield solutions to the numerous security challenges confronting the participating countries.
The attention you seek to dedicate to the related areas in this summit is therefore commendable. I trust that innovative solutions will be devised at the end of the day. In Ghana, issues surrounding the extraction of natural resources and youth unemployment continue to pose a real threat to our national security, and we are injecting innovative approaches to dealing with these threats. Opportunities such as the Africa Land Forces Summit 2025 offer a unique entry point and platform to source solutions from some of the best brains in the defense and security sector globally. I trust that your deliberations on the selected topics would yield pioneering ideas, groundbreaking ideas that will help advance long-term solutions to our common challenges.
You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and live on WADR. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Senegal mourns the demise of Constitutional Council President Badio Camara. Mali and Algeria's diplomatic row officially lands at the U.S. Security Council without request for any action to be taken. Côte d'Ivoire's government engages teachers' union over possible suspension of strike. The Baku community of Ghana experiences another conflict resulting in one fatality and several injuries. Still ahead in the news, we have the guest interview and sports update. Please stay tuned.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
In Nigeria's conflict-ridden northeast, a war of words is brewing between Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State and the Nigerian military. The commotion may cast shadows over the region's fragile security gains. At the heart of the dispute is a divergence in perspective of the true state of the insurgency, a matter with serious implications for peace building and development. WDR's correspondent Usman Umar has more on this.
The latest disagreement between Governor Zulum and the military command of Operation Haɗin-Kai is more than just a clash of narratives. It highlights a critical gap in trust and coordination within Nigeria's counterinsurgency framework. Governor Zulum, while expressing concern over what he described as Boko Haram's resurgence in parts of Borno, warned that terrorists are regaining territory with little or no resistance. His remarks, citing recent attacks and kidnappings, sparked strong reactions. In a detailed response, Operation Haɗin-Kai, a military operation focusing on the troubled northeastern region, rejected claims of territorial loss, emphasizing that no local government area is under insurgent control. The military listed recent successes from the neutralization of high-profile commanders to the destruction of over a dozen terrorist camps and warned against attempts at politicizing insecurity. But beyond the rhetoric, analysts say such disagreements risk undermining a unified front against insurgency. At stake are the morale of troops, public trust, and the momentum of reconstruction efforts across communities recently freed from insurgent grip. Observers caution that contradictory messages can embolden extremist groups, stall civilian resettlement, and complicate cross-border military cooperation, especially in remote flashpoints like the Lake Chad Islands. WADR, during a recent mission to Borno, discovered that over 2,000 insurgents and family members have surrendered since 2021, a milestone the military sees as proof of strategic progress. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Liberia's Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection, Ben Horace Colley, has shed light on the alarming increase in sexual and gender-based violence across the nation. The latest report from the ministry, covering the period from December 2024 to date, highlights a disturbing trend that has left many citizens concerned about the safety and well-being of vulnerable populations, particularly women and children. Speaking on a local radio station in Monrovia Wednesday, Horace Colley said there have been 40 cases reported through the ministry's newly established call center. She attributed the rise to a troubling phenomenon of family compromise, wherein families often minimize or overlook acts of violence, including rape, that occur within their communities.
We have opened the call center at the ministry, which was meant to address national effort to provide the public with additional options for reporting instances of sexual and gender-based violence, child abuse, and child labor, and other situations. So since we opened the center, to date we received 40 cases of persistent non-support, 40 cases between December to now. We've had 30 cases of physical abuse. We've had 7 cases of sexual abuse. Also from the call center, we've had 20 cases of rape, like I mentioned. We've had 3 cases of early marriage. Again, I want to mention, we do have a big challenge with a lot of effort being made to create awareness, but culture is killing the fight. Families will rape didn't involve for another 6 months to go within the pilot phase, because we thought it would be the pilot phase would be an opportunity for us to learn from it.
Of course, that was Liberia's Minister of Gender, Horace Colley.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is a guest.
Our guest is Harold Thomas, he's coordinator at the Sierra Leonean Ministry of Health, who speaks to us about the ongoing vaccination drive against Mpox. In the neighboring Sierra Leone, the Ministry of Health has begun vaccinating frontline health workers and high-risk individuals against Mpox months after it was declared public health emergency in the country. Freetown launched the vaccination drive after it secured 61,300 doses of vaccine from the UN Health Agency WHO. The Health Ministry said children aged 12 and above are also targeted in the campaign.
Sierra Leone actually declared a public health emergency on Mpox on January this year, when we had our first case on the 10th of January this year. So since then, we have gotten a number of cases. To be precise, as of yesterday, we have a total of 150 confirmed cases, and 72 of these cases are active cases, meaning they are on treatment facility, and then we have 76 that are fully recovered, and unfortunately we also have 2 deaths. So that's the situation in Sierra Leone. And the Minister of Health in January had actually declared Mpox as a public health emergency. So this is the situation we are dealing with now. For the vaccine, we all know that the Mpox vaccine is just one weapon in our arsenal of weapons in fighting against, Mpox. We have other non-pharmaceutical interventions like simple hand hygiene, reporting cases, and prompt management of cases, and proper surveillance.
So let's talk about the ongoing vaccination exercise. Which of the region is first of targeted in the exercise?
If you look at the epidemiology now, you will find out that the western area, urban, where the capital sits, has the highest number of cases. They have 109 of the total 115. And then the western area, rural, which is very close to the western area, urban, has the second highest of 24. And only 8 of the 16 districts in Sierra Leone are reporting or are recording active cases.
What explains the caseload, this high caseload of cases or infections in the western and urban regions like you mentioned?
Well, the western area, urban and rural, in fact, we are the very first case there, and it's densely populated. And you know that this is the seat of the government, and it's the capital city, and we have densely populated area. But we are trying to actually further look at the dynamics of the spread of the disease. But to what we know, there is, the interaction here is quite different from other districts.
Harold Temos is the risk coordinator at the Sierra Leone Ministry of Health. Of course, in sports, I am joined by my colleague Christopher Aticho, and there seems to be some very interesting results in the Under-17 CAF Africa Cup of Nations. But I am not surprised that, of course, Burkina Faso continues to show what they are made of. I mean, they are one of my favorites. Tell us more about the latest in the CAF Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations, Christopher.
Well, yes, so Sankule, as we just start on the Burkina Faso story, let me just bring that result, because today's encounter ended in a thrashing out of 6-1 to Zambia in that particular encounter, and the current state of that particular tournament has reached its quarterfinals, and later at 7 this evening, Morocco will be taking on South Africa,
and that's the host.
Will be taking on South Africa, and it is expected to be another cracker over there. Tomorrow, Ivory Coast will be taking on our very own Senegal. Tomorrow, Ivory Coast.
That promises to be an interesting
Senegal,
one.
And then Tunisia.
Defending champions, that is Senegal, are taking on, Ivory Coast. That promises to be a very interesting game of football.
And finally, Tunisia will be taking on Mali tomorrow as well. But also, it is expected that among these 8 countries, the best would obviously win.
Of course, but one thing you have to also know, Christopher, is that, Burkina Faso, during the course of the group stage, they lead their group and they were the best. They've played the best football. They've scored more goals than any other team. And again, in the quarterfinals, they've thrashed Tanzania, 6-1.
That's a lot. But we pray that this particular team grows to become the national team of the Burkina Faso.
Yeah, normally that's how it goes. You have few of them, growing. If that is, if they maintain their performance.
But we don't really see it often.
But would you like to risk? Bet or what I say? Would you like to predict between Senegal and Cote d'Ivoire tomorrow? Because that promises to be a cracker.
I'm really rooting for Senegal.
You're rooting for Senegal. Just like that.
Just like
Christopher Atsu. Thank you so much with the sports. Of course, that is Christopher Atsu with the latest updates in sports. And that's it, of course, on this edition of Newslink, coming to you from West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for tuning in, and special thanks to Mustafa Sek. Excuse me, of course, because not Mustafa Sek, is Maudou Diouf, Mam Kodu, and the technical team, Umu Danogo, there. Connect with us, of course, on our social media platforms, X and Instagram, WDR English, and on Facebook, WDR English Service, or listen to us live at WDR.org. Stay tuned for our environment program in English, Enviroscope, at the bottom of the hour. I am Sankule Janko. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about